Guys, my name is Emmanuel. Welcome back to Eman Codes. Today we're going to be talking about Docker. And the reason we're going to be talking about Docker is because there'll be another video coming after this which will fit in nicely with Docker. It will utilize some of the applications of Docker. Docker is a DevOps tool which it allows you to essentially run your projects separate from your infrastructure. So in simple terms, what that means is basically you can create your own application, for example, and then you can take a snapshot of the application, and then you can run the application. You can run the application on any device, on any kind of like operating system, Mac, Linux, Windows. The only caveat is that those servers would need to have Docker installed on them. So I'll give you a quick tutorial as to some of the things that you can achieve with Docker and what it looks like. So first we're going to go into it and we're going to install Docker, and then we're going to create a Docker file, for example. Let's have a look. So Docker is quite strange to install. So what you want to do, if you go to DigitalOcean, it's a very quite famous website, and it will give you the instruction on how to install Docker. The first thing you want to do is update the server that you're on, and then you can just literally just copy and paste these things into your server. Of course. And you copy and paste the next one into your server. So we've done this one. This will add Docker to your it'll add GPG key for your Docker repository. So you copy that and install it. Okay. And then add the Docker repository to apt. These are things that will come later on. It will come in handy later on, and we'll understand why we're using all of these packages in later videos. Once that's done, I guess you can run another update just to make sure everything is working. And then I believe you want to start Docker actually. There should be one. Yeah, this one is quite important. So you want to add this one here, because now, for example, if we did Docker version, it shouldn't really work just because it will tell us you need to Docker is not installed, which it is installed. However, you need to use sudo as a command, and it will tell you okay, Docker is not actually installed yet. Let's have a look and see why Docker is not installed. Of course, yeah, we haven't installed Docker yet. Make sure you install Docker, so run the repo. Here's where you we install Docker. So if we did sudo docker version, it will tell us what version Docker is. Oh, there we go. We haven't actually finally. We need to install Docker. And that installs Docker for us. It takes a while sometimes to install, to completely finish the installation of Docker. Give it a minute. Just to give you a bit of background, so the application, the operating system I'm using is Linux. I've got a virtual machine that I'm using from AWS. I'll also cover that, how to create your own virtual machine in AWS. I'll make a video on that, and I'll show you how you can then SSH into that. So now we've got Docker installed. So for example, if we did Docker version here, it will tell us that Docker is installed. If we just have a look at what we can do, Docker PS, we need to actually start Docker. So we start Docker. Right now, if you use this will tell you that Docker hasn't actually started yet. So it will tell you the status of Docker, and we can see here how that is actually timed as not supported. Is now actively running. Let's see. So if we did PS, okay, let's start it. Some CTO and then start Docker. So we did PS. Of course. So here's what I was talking about earlier. Because we haven't added Docker to the group, we haven't added to our user group, we'll have to always run sudo, which is a super user for Linux. But to add it to the group, to add Docker to the group, you need to run this command here. So after running this command, we'll no longer have to use a sudo. So for now, we'll probably may have to use a sudo, just because we'll probably may have to restart the terminal. Yeah, we'll probably have to restart the terminal. I think we may have to actually restart the entire application. Yeah, we'll have to restart the entire so restart. Let's have a look and see that command. Yeah, no. Reboot is, I think, is the command we need. And then username. I'm going to reboot this thing again. Exit, and then let's go back into that terminal again. I'm using the current host. Yeah, there we go. So we're doing a sudo reboot, and then it will restart the Docker terminal for us. Yeah, it's starting with the restarting the Docker terminal. Restarting, so we'll reconnect to the SSH after this. I do wonder if it's going to change the IP address of the virtual machine. It shouldn't really do that, but we'll see. We'll see whether it does that. Yeah, now it's rebooted, so we can now do Docker PS without having to. Yeah, so now it's working fine. Now, just to give you a demonstration of what you can do with Docker, to take a screenshot. Say, for example, we had an application. We had, for example, a small application. Let's just say, for example, that we wanted to, we had a file, for example, let's just create a file called touch hello.txt. Right. If we go here, let's open that file folder. Just go open that folder. So we've got our hello.txt file here, right? And let's just fill it with this is a Docker test small tutorial. Then we save that. Save that, for example. Let's then now create a Docker file. You will need a Docker file in order to essentially run some of the fundamentals of Docker. So in order for you to run an application with Docker and separate that from the infrastructure, you have to build what's called a Docker image. And you build a Docker image by creating a Docker file. And within your Docker file, you need to tell it where to build that image from, where to save that image. So the first thing you need is from, and then with this, you need to, for example, select what image you already want to use. So we can use Ubuntu, and we can use the latest version 20.04. And then we can tell it that we wanted to copy everything that we have on our current working folder on our current server. We want to copy it and put it onto the image. So we can do copy everything there and put it into Docker, into the Docker image. And then that's it. So let's build it. And the way you build a folder in Docker is you use Docker build, and you can use the tag T, give it a name. For example, we can call it Docker underscore test, and you use this the full stop to signal that we're using this directory. We're using this, the direction that we're in is where the Docker file is. So we start it. We begin to build for you. And then it will copy everything into Docker. So it's successfully built it. So if you want to look, check and make sure that the Docker image has been built, you can do Docker PS. So Docker image ls, and that will show you, as you can see here, we've got the Docker test. And then we want to run this just to make sure that that it's worked. Docker run. Let's have a look and see that works. That probably didn't work. We would have to do Docker -ci. So essentially, if I added a second terminal, for example, we can see here the way you check whether your application is running or not. If you use Docker PS, which will tell you that your Docker image is running. And essentially with this, we can see here that we've got our container, which will then contain, if we were to what's known as exec into Docker, we'll be able to see that it copied the hello world into that terminal. So we'll go into the way you go into the Docker container. You should do Docker exec -it, and then you want to copy the container name, paste it, and then because it's a bash terminal, you want to use bash. Okay, and that will take you into it. So if you look here, you can see here that our hello world is actually within the Docker container. We can check to make sure that the information hello world, this is a Docker test, is actually in there. So if we did a cat hello world, we can see this is a Docker container as shown in there. This is a small Docker test that we can use. Docker has a number of functionalities that it's also included within it, within its package. For example, you can actually use Docker quite beautifully to if you're creating an application, you need a database, for example, you can use Docker to host the database, and then you can have your application communicate with Docker. For this, you will need to create a Docker network for it to communicate with it, and you also need to create a Docker volume also. But we'll go through this in another video when we go ahead and we'll create all of this. So yeah, I hope you learned something about Docker. If the main thing you want to take away, main takeaway I think you can really take away from this is that Docker allows you to essentially create a snapshot of your application and run it in any application you like. So for example, with this, I could push this to the Docker Hub, which if I was then on another computer, I can pull that down and then I could run it, and I'll be able to see that it would indeed have Hello World saved into it. So I hope you learned something today. This is Eman Codes. Like, subscribe, and we'll be building more projects. The reason for this video, like I said, is just so that we will learn a little bit about Docker, because we're going to use Docker in one of our projects in the context of we're going to use it as a volume. I just want to touch base and make sure you guys understood what Docker was. Thank you for your time. Yeah, hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you very soon. Like and subscribe.